Sure can. Go ahead.
Great. Well, I love that I'm, the featured guest, I guess, on this. Oh, maybe I have one more, which is fantastic.
Well, that's just me. Isaac. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a specific question per se. I just, I work for Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology in Huntsville, Alabama. So obvious the connections there between bio and NASA with Marshall Space Flight Center and then Hudson Alpha, we're a genetics and genomics research institute. So I've got a lot of, I think Rachel is kind of the ringleader of a small group of us who just have great interest in space bio and space agriculture research. And you mentioned some of that in your opening talk. And I was just slacking back and forth with one of our principal investigators who's also very interested in doing some research in low Earth orbit and other space environments. So really just wanted to connect with you as a group that we're looking more and more into that from a technology commercialization standpoint, looking at different agriculture experiments. A lot of what we do here at Hudson Alpha is in ag genomics and genetics. So looking at how plants change in different environments, or looking at ways we can create plants for special ecosystems, including maybe even in on the moon or Mars or wherever that looks like. So no specific question for me other than maybe what areas are interesting.
Actually, I think I might have a few questions for you if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
So we were in the previous conversation, we were talking with someone else that was from a research institute. Out of curiosity, your institute, do you guys host any kind of workshops or events that are meant to generate SBIR, STTR type activity? The reason I'm asking is a lot of times there's a lot of different companies that are spread out in a given region, and research institutes can really act like a good focal point and get people in a community together to, you guys might find you're a couple blocks away from some team that's been working on something similar, but the research institutes in this larger community that I've found, although it's the companies putting in the proposals, the research institutes are the kind of the source of community. And there's a lot of times when a given company is going to have a whole lot of help just because of who else gets attracted to the same research institute. It's a good focal point. So for you guys, I would encourage you to be considering to put out a call for companies who have interest in working that sort of stuff, because what I found is that small businesses won't on their own go and reach out and talk to a research institute. It's pretty rare. But if the research institute says, hey, we're doing this event, we're doing this thing, then you kind of get the ball rolling and you can get some dialogue going. So from our side, the research institutes are pretty pivotal players. And then of course for us, we have the STTR subtopics versus the SBIR, which for everybody, that basically, if you're doing an STTR subtopic specifically, then you have to have a research institute as part of your team. But the thing that's interesting about the STTR subtopics is there's a higher likelihood that you're going to win first-time awards on those, significantly higher, because frankly, it's harder to set up those sorts of teams. So just advice that I would give for any small business that doesn't already have some kind of interaction with research institutes near them, it's worth having some dialogue and see what you can put together just for networking, if for nothing else, for sure. So I'd encourage that for you guys. You probably might be able to help foster a community in your area that might not be so obvious it's there.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate those comments. We are also, alongside the Research Institute, we've got 50 biotech companies who are co-located on our campus with us. So we've got, but that's, there's significant, the history of Hudson Alpha has been, very much on the human health side of things. And so we're just getting more and more interest on the ag, and then even in the space bio and space ag side. So to your point about creating those, events and collision points for events, for to create those teams and come out of that with some sort of SBIR, STTR opportunity. That's definitely something I want to look at, and I appreciate what you said, because that's very validating for some stuff that I want to do in the future.
Sure. As you guys are planning schedules for next year or two, I mean, it might not be that hard for you guys to put together a couple of presentations, but that could be the focal point to get the ball rolling for some stuff. That seems to happen.
Great.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it looks like we had some other folks join us, Isaac and Quanting. Did I get that right?
Right.
You guys feel free to, good to meet you. Feel free to ask a question. It's a pretty open forum here.
Yeah, I do have usually on the other program, I think NSF require the company to identify the customer or pitch the kind of business plan on that. And the Air Force, I went to Air Force section previously, and they do have special topic, already have a built-in customer of Air Force clients in there. For NASA, SBIR, what kind of a client relationship is?
We have, for NASA, SBIR and STTR technology, we have a strong interest in commercialization, like most SBIR and STTRs do, which basically means that we have an idea for a customer inside our agency, but we also want to help encourage something that can survive on its own as well, if possible. Our problem with NASA is that we have a challenge sometimes from when we start a subtopic and we actually do the work to get it into the solicitation and it goes through all those reviews and everything. It takes about 3.5 years between when we actually start with an idea and when we're actually holding technology in our hands. Just because of, you got to go through the solicitation going out to the street, phase 1, phase 2, so on and so forth. Our challenge in NASA is that 3.5 years is a lot of time for the direction of the agency to change. And so we have oftentimes where we have started something several years ago, and then the program's priorities have changed, and the original customers that we thought would want this technology aren't quite there. So I would say inside the NASA agency, we have a little bit more of a challenge in fusing our technologies. It's not always so sharp that we have a specific customer, mostly because for me to tell you that we've got that one customer means that I have to predict that Congress is going to like what we're doing the next couple of years. So I don't know.
I understand that.
So, yeah. So that's part of the challenges that we have. So for us, I would say that especially for space biology and space agriculture, things like that, I think the industry partner or the industry commercialization potential matters a little bit more for this side of the NASA portfolio than it might for other parts. For example, if you were doing,
I do different. I do the composite material research.
Okay.
Yeah, carbon fiber composite.
Got it. Yeah, so there's all sorts of different types of material needs that we're doing across the agency. What I was going to say was, if we were talking about technology that was for satellite communications or something that's very well implemented already, then the customer line gets pretty solid. But when we're speculating and we say, well, we think people are going to live on the surface of the moon eventually, and when they do, they're going to need to be able to grow their own plants. The specific customer for that it's hard to get that quite dialed in. So I think that's a bit of the challenges for some of the more exotic or futuristic subjects. There's less and less tangible of a specific customer that's going to be there for us. So the bigger answer is, I would say that NASA is a little weak on providing specified customers for our subtopics compared to other agencies, I would say.
So if I write a proposal, my company write a proposal, is that okay to bring my own customer if the project?
That helps. Yes, that definitely helps, because what we're interested in NASA is we really want to have a strong commercialization base. We don't want to be your only customer. We really don't want that. We did that throughout the whole space shuttle program, and it caused all sorts of problems because some companies became forced to use outmoded technology to still supply us with the same part, and it would hurt them. So we're very interested in having people have a strong commercial future and base and ultimate customer base. That's a plus. That's not a minus for us.
So the proposal need to, if that case, need to address two different business plan, kind of like a
Yeah, a little bit, but
one from NASA, one
the government's going to give you phase 1 and phase 2 funding, assuming you're successful.
Mhm.
After phase 2, that's where your commercial partner can start to come in, because what NASA does and what the other federal agencies do is we'll fund you up until where your technology is getting developed. And then once you have somebody that can help, that wants to be the customer, like you're saying, that person can pitch in a little bit and NASA can pitch in a little bit and get across the finish line. So that with what you're saying, if you already have a customer base or customer in mind, you are better prepared to continue the tech development through and beyond phase 2, as far as we're concerned.
And that one can be, because like composite dual use material can be for the aerospace, but also automotive and other things. So that partner can be not the space technology.
Yeah, we definitely, although we've got our space needs, if there's dual use outside of the space industry, that's fine by us. It certainly isn't a disqualifier. We tend to like all that. And especially for what you're doing, logistics reduction as a phrase, logistics reduction,
Yes,
anything
right.
that NASA can do to reduce the amount that we're bringing to where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that because it relates to biology, but it also even relates to composites. If you can start to think of different ways, like as an example, and this isn't the space industry, so forgive me, sailboats right now. If you were to make a sailboat, it's a bit of a problem because they don't really know how to deconstruct sailboats. It's hard to recycle fiberglass sailboats. And so because of that, there's now a really strong interest in, are there natural fibers out there? Is there some other way of building it other than fiberglass so that we don't end up with all these boat parts in landfills? Same sort of thought process for us. You may be building a composite part for one particular thing, and NASA would be happy to accomplish that one task. But what would make us much more happy is that composite, once it's at its end of its life, could be done, repurposed into something else. Or can we get more than one use, more than one application for things that we're doing? That starts to really be enticing for us.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Yeah.
Sure. Isaac, do you have some questions, sir?
Actually, yes, I do. So I'm curious whether NASA is open or is thinking about astronaut health monitoring. Reason being, the company that I'm founding, the startup, what we do is we're making portable medical device that can scan different biofluids and detect viruses, bacteria, and different proteins in 5 minutes. So one of the things aside from doing just pathogen detection, we also want to do human immune response detection, and we're trying to validate that through our study we're about to start. And I was curious that whether NASA is trying to do that in the National Space Station, because I'm thinking that, yes, as you're saying, like, it needs to be, as you're going somewhere, everything needs to be smaller and smaller. And if you need like a device that can do the monitoring for you without having to take a large centrifuge system or a large like blood testing analyzer, urine analysis,
Sure.
and all those things.
So you would wish you could do all of your lab testing, but just in some little box that you could take with you instead of a whole hospital lab, right?
Yes, and right now what we're doing is starting with 2 diseases and then adding each disease and each functionality over time to make sure we're robust.
So for NASA, we do have interest in human health. It's strangely smaller than you would think it is. It's at so NASA has 10 different space centers, and it's at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, is the Human Research Program. HRP. Those are going to be the main and probably only source of interest within NASA for technology that has to do with medical or human health in general. The Human Research Program, HRP. So if you want to try to connect with, so my counterpart at Johnson Space Center, her name is Kathy Packard. Mm-hmm. And if you go to our website, so if you go on Google and you type NASA SBIR, get to our webpage. Top right corner is contacts, and mm-hmm. she'll be listed as the point of contact for Johnson Space Center. And so okay. Kathy Packard, and she'd be the one that can help you. Now, I would suggest, if you can, try to take a look at our solicitation that's on the same webpage. See if you can pull up even kind of if there's any kind of close subtopic. And I will tell you, it's in the last few years, from my perspective, there's been less human medical technology development in that solicitation than I would have thought. For some reason, we don't really push that very hard within NASA, or maybe it's happening elsewhere. But I do know that we do have plenty of interest on the road as I'm talking to different people. There's lots of interest in medical tech. But at least for the SBIR, NASA SBIR program, there's maybe a couple of subtopics you'll find out there, but not a whole lot. Probably better for you to try to directly connect with the program rather than a specific subtopic in your case.
Right, because when you had said earlier to go to the same place and download the PDF, I did the same thing and scanned through like all of it. And I couldn't find as many, so that's why I was wondering if. So I'll probably go ahead and do what you're recommending and contact Kathy to see what's happening.
Sure. Human research program at Johnson Space Center would be the place for you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And we have another person, Faraz. Please, if you could pronounce your name, I'd love to hear how to pronounce that. Faraznas? I'm butchering it, I'm sorry. But just want to make sure if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We've got a fairly small crowd here.
May I ask one more question?
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah. For the phase 1, the SBIR is a 6 month.
Yep.
Which for small companies, especially I just try to start a company. I'm university professor now, so that's very short time being. And what's a whole cycle from the proposal submission and to knowing the notification of award, receiving the money, and start to count the project cycle. How long? What's the months of each one?
So we are on a typical year releasing the solicitation within the first week of January. And I think our awards, it's even on that webpage, but let me find it for you. I think our awards come out in April.
Okay. Pretty fast.